cutting-edge 5th edition of the Global Sustainability Alliance SDG Summit was organized recently at the national capital, which united global change makers, government officials, business leaders and sustainability experts to further the focus on advancing sustainable development and environmental stewardship. The gala event was flagged off with a special address by Jitendra Singh, Minister of State, Independent Charge of Science and Technology, Minister of State in the Prime Minister's Office, Minister of State in the Ministry of Personnel, Public Grievances, Government of India.
And when we talk of sustainability or the sustainable goals or the sustainable initiatives, particularly in the context of achieving the goal of a greener future, I think we have to bear in mind that India has on its own, and in fact the Prime Minister of India has himself committed to net zero emissions by 2070. So not only that, we have also laid down for ourselves and we saw it for ourselves that while 2070 will be our net zero gain, by 2030 we will also achieve certain milestones in this direction, like for example, statistically non-fossil fuel energy capacity of about 500 gigawatts, which means half the energy needs will be fulfilled by non-emission sources, reducing carbon dioxide emission by as much as 1 billion tons by the same year 2030 and reducing the carbon intensity by 45%. So we have actually not only committed ourselves, we have very emphatically, statistically laid down the target for the world to watch.
It's now time to grab a little more insights from the advisory board.
ESG is not just a cost. It shouldn't be seen as profits lost. Now, businesses do realize that profit is a short-term prize. After all, what do companies gain if they die out and don't sustain? Ingeniously, we can plan it, serve profit, people, and planet. Sustainability is not a pain, for after all, it is a gain. With ESG spends, nothing's lost, as benefits outweigh the cost. Thank you.
As philanthropies, we're not trying to substitute anything. In fact, we're really trying to synergize and leverage opportunities.
We have, in the United Arab Emirates, I think we have been fortunate that our leadership has been very committed to education from very early on. And when we talk about our environment, when we talk about looking after our nature, I picked up a term about just a minute ago about investing. You know, if you invest early, the return will be greater.
Where are we right now in 2023 as the world and as India in particular? So we're the most populous country in the world. Secondly, we are confronted with the very real and the clear and present threat of climate change. But the third is a rapid technological development. These three elements are, to me, a triquetra which is going to underpin and define the coming years and decades.
On that note, our next conversation that we're about to host, this is the CEO's Dialogue.
Some of the fundamental questions which always pop up on sustainability is, it's just another cost for me. We at IBM did a report on Institute of Business Value, and 72% of people came out and actually said that it is a revenue enabler, not just a cost factor.
When we started a factory for washing machines in the country just about a decade before in 2013, we decided that we'll use air to test the leakages. And we developed a technology, the process, and we decided that we are not going to use water at all.
At L'Oreal, very simply, we look at it not as cost but competitive advantage. We are mindful of scope 3 targets. It's not just about what we create but our entire ecosystem.
In Grasim, we have multiple businesses. In textile, we have achieved 15% renewable energy, and in next 4-5 years, we will reach almost 80% renewable energy.
Basically, from sustainability point of view, GMR as a group, we have this long-term commitment to ensure that all the infrastructure that we develop, that itself is developed in a manner that it is green. Just to give you an example, that the latest Terminal 1 that is getting developed, it is already pre-certified as a platinum building. Delhi Airport has been at the forefront worldwide in terms of energy conservation. We are committed to becoming carbon neutral by 2030. Between scope 1 and scope 2, we have already achieved close to about 99% of carbon neutrality. by actually switching to 100% green energy. And we were the first airport in the world to have a solar power plant on the air side.
The regulatory bodies, I think they play an extremely critical part in this whole journey to sustainability. More critical than any other regulator in any other industry.
Thank you, Mr. Jaipuria, for being here with us today. Mr. Jaipuria, speaking of corporates and business strategies, what kind of strategies is your organization basically deploying in order to obtain sustainable business practices?
We and our group, GMR Group, firmly believes that you have to embed sustainability into your overall business strategy. Just giving you some of the examples, like in 2006, when we started operation of Delhi Airport, that time itself, Terminal 3 design was done in line with the platinum level certification, so that it was one of the most energy efficient public building. Even now, when we are developing Terminal 1, we have got a pre-certification of platinum level. And a lot of people wonder that, okay, does it cost more? Yes, it does cost more. But if I do a value working for that what is the kind of payback that it gives you? Typically in 10 to 11 years, you get a payback on this investment. And most of the infrastructures are built for 25 to 30 years. So this practice itself is sustainable. Similarly, we also anticipated that when we are growing as an airport, we will need more and more power consumption, more and more water consumption. So all the measures that we could take at each point of time in terms of conserving water and conserving power, as well as greening of the power, we have made sure that we take that at the right time. Just to give you an example, Delhi Airport today runs 100% on renewable energy. Basically, there are two key initiatives that we took as part of our business strategy. One was to have a PPA with hydropower plant, which we did about 10 years back. It took some time for the hydropower plant to become operational. So that supplies close to 94% of our energy requirement. Delhi Airport also became the first airport in the world to have solar power plants on the air side, because there were a lot of concerns about safety of flights and other things. So we had to navigate it through all the different agencies, including International Civil Aviation Organization, the GSA. We were able to convince that this is not causing any safety hazard, and that has helped us become the highest rated airport in terms of carbon accreditation across the world.
This is speaking of Delhi Airport, but what in your opinion is, how close are we to actually attaining the Agenda 2030, what we are speaking about? We are so close to 2030 and technically speaking, we are nowhere there. Your opinion on this?
I can talk about aviation as a sector. In fact, Delhi Airport, we are committed to becoming zero net carbon by 2030 from a government point of view. From social point of view, in fact, airports directly or indirectly affect 15 out of 17 SDGs. And we work on each one of them through our foundation, where we work with the children, make sure that economically backward section we work closely with. And I think we have made very good progress in the last few years. And I can also see that overall other aviation partners also are committed. There is a lot of work going on from environment point of view, especially on the sustainable aviation fuel, where we have got a joint working group which we have formed along with the aircraft suppliers and some of the other service providers. And we are moving in the right direction. And I'm sure that with the kind of push that the government is giving, we should be able to reach very close to the goals that we have set for ourselves.
Is economic growth and reducing emissions possible at the same time?
Yes, it is possible. And that is basically facilitated by the kind of different technologies which are coming in. We, in the last 3 to 4 years, have changed all the lighting, including the runway lighting, to LED lighting. Now that has cut down our power cost dramatically. Similarly, the new technologies like DigiYatra. So what is DigiYatra doing is that it is improving the efficiency of processing a passenger, which effectively means that the same infrastructure I can use for larger set of passengers. So that reduces the overall carbon footprint.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jaipuria.
Time for another leaders dialogue coming your way. Another pertinent topic. We're talking about starting small and growing big.
Sustainable solutions for climate change, sustainable energy transitions, inclusive global value chain, employment generation, social protection, and skilling are at the center stage of the future development pathways.
With the excessive use of chemical fertilizers, our soil is degrading and it's becoming infertile, which is a very big challenge for the future.
Diageo actually believes that society is at the heart of the business strategy of Diageo. And we all need to progress together. Our purpose has been celebrate life every day, everywhere. And this strategy comes alive with our another strategy, which is Spirit of Progress 2030. What is this Spirit of Progress? This is our commitment, Diageo's commitment towards this particular agenda. It has 3 pillars. Pillar number 1 is promoting positive drinking. Second, diversity and inclusivity. We want to make this entire ecosystem more diverse and inclusive, and it also has some implications with the consumers. And last but not the least is the grain to glass sustainability.
I think automobiles have a contribution to make, but aviation sector has a lot more to make, right? I think the maximum amount of carbon emissions every one of you here in this room will know will be contributed by the aviation sector.
Sustainability's bedrock is innovation, right? Innovation's bedrock is technology. Technology is driving a lot of stuff behind sustainability that's happening at this point in time.
What we're about to do is share a virtual address coming in from none other than Shri Bhupender Yadav, Union Cabinet Minister of Labour and Employment, Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India.
The Sustainable Development Goals, often referred to as the SDGs, represent a universal call to action to end poverty, protection our planet, and ensure prosperity for all. As the Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, I pledge our commitment to these goals. We will continue to implement policies that promote sustainable practices, protect our precious ecosystems, and reduce our carbon footprint. The Sustainable Development Goals are not mere aspirations, they are a call to action. Together, through collaboration, innovative financing and resilience building, we can build a more equitable, sustainable and prosperous world for current and future generations. Let us leave a legacy of hope, progress and responsibility for our planet. Thank you.
What we're about to do now is move forward towards our next presentation, and this is where we're about to gather the sustainability story. And joining us this afternoon, we have with us none other than Navdeep Singh Mehram, who's the head sustainability with Diageo India.
We do what we mean and we stand for that. So I think the journey started like that. 50% of our 10-year plan is focused on sustainability. That's how, when Prathmesh said, it is the heart and soul of our business strategy, and that's how we drive our business around these pillars of our Society 2030. In our country, there are two very big aspects on which we are working. One is anti-drink drive. In that, we have developed a very interesting program. It's an interactive program called Wrong Side of the Road. We do that in partnership with the RTOs, the licensing authority. So it's embedded in the licensing process. We have about 30 such centers working in the country. This module is translated into 6 languages: Kannada, Marathi, Bengali, all of that, Hindi, English, all of that. More than 300,000 people have already undergone this particular training program so far. We look forward to touch about 1 million people in next coming 2 to 3 years' time.
So for sustainable business practices, we have a 10-year long-term strategy called Spirit of Progress Society 2030. where we have three key pillars for our sustainable development, which are number one, promoting positive drinking, number two, championing inclusion and diversity, and number three, grain to glass sustainability, in which we are working on preserving water for life, becoming sustainable by design, and having championing the low carbon world. So these are the pillars of our strategy, which is helping us to actually implement our ESG and become the best in class in the CPG.
The KPMG report states that the two forms of tobacco use that are prevalent within a significant portion of the population are smoking and oral consumption. Are there any studies or research, or perhaps you've come across in your practice life, to establish the link between stress, anxiety, and tobacco use?
Yes, there are multiple studies which relate smoking to peer pressure, complexes in life. It amounts to a number of social problems, and added to it peer pressure. All these studies prove.
The report also highlights the reasons why people pick up tobacco is different, maybe in an urban setting, in a rural setting, in a sort of higher level in society, a lower socioeconomic status. So whether those factors are being addressed. Now, before somebody lands up with a disease, the likelihood of them even looking at themselves as being dependent on tobacco is very low. So they don't self-identify as being dependent. So seeking treatment is going to be remote in that situation.
My suggestion would be to have a multi-pronged approach. It is, you provide enough awareness, knowledge to the people that, there are alternatives, NRTs available, and of course, right now they're banned in India. The thing is, regulate the market, not ban it.
1% of GDP getting used on tobacco usage of the burden of the diseases which are coming out of it. So that's a big number. Then that is WHO has given this report, and the 100 rupees you're collecting, you're spending 180 rupees on health. So just think about it, where the money is going.
Nicotine is not at all required for our body.
Correct.
Body functioning. Then why can't we stop this cessation and stop introduction of this nicotine in our systems?
We're going to have to chart a course of development which is sustainable, right? Now, at the heart of sustaining economic growth, which is in ecologically sound manner, is definitely going to be infrastructure. Now, in doing so, there are a few elements that we need to bear in mind. One would be decarbonizing vehicular traffic. That is a major element. With a rising population and growing economic capabilities, you're seeing more and more Indians buy vehicles, which is a major source of pollution. And therefore, greening and decarbonizing the vehicular sector is going to be a key facet of ensuring sustainability. A lot of talk that we see even today is how sustainability can be achieved, or if sustainability or climate action needs to be taken. I'd like to answer that with a very firm assertion that sustainability is an imperative. It is not a choice.
The summit covered a myriad of topics like sustainability, climate change mitigation, and sustainable mobility. In the leaders panel discussion, eminent leaders led discussions on the topic rolling into the future with sustainable mobility. During the discussion, Ratnesh Mittal, Chief Revenue Officer of Lithium Urban Technologies, stressed on the importance of battery life in terms of mobility.
Have an issue of is if it's 80%, it's good enough, it doesn't matter. I'll just put more number of 80% batteries. And after that is done, and apparently that has a life of 10 years. After that is done, you can still use those batteries for another 5 years as UPS. So what looked like a 5-year battery life or a 7-year battery life is suddenly looking like a 20-year battery life. You already pushed that problem down by another 15 years. Yeah. So, and exactly like what you said, in this period, clearly there will be other technology of how you can recycle it, how you can reuse it, and you don't need to mine it. Directionally, as long as they're in the right place.
The bias for action is absolutely crucial. I think the need of the hour is to convert as many hydrocarbon kilometers into electric and renewable based kilometers. Move into as many more applications. We continue to push the envelope from day one to now in terms of doing and crossing those hitherto uncrossed chasms with gusto, with speed, with belief, and doing stuff that a few others or none others have done before. I think that is the spirit that embodies lithium and those change makers, the passion with which each one of us has to take on this challenge of sustainability and climate change. So really doing more of the same and doing new stuff at a much rapid pace. That's really the mantra for us.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the ministerial address. Please help me welcome on stage Leonpo Namge Shering.
I'm pleased to inform the August gathering here that Bhutan will and will always uphold our commitment to protect the global public good and remain carbon negative. Indeed, this commitment for us comes with a huge economic cost and challenge. I'm delighted to share the core fundamental principle of Bhutan's philosophy that is grounded on the principle of gross national happiness, the policy that seeks to measure overall happiness and well-being beyond economic prosperity. Bhutan, the country that is actively sinking carbon, yet we are poised to bear some of the worst impacts of climate change. Bhutan is indeed a case study for the kind of environmental justice dilemma that will arise as the world increasingly faces the challenge of a climate change. Let us unequivocally say that the biggest threat to sustainable development is a threat from climate change. Thank you. Tashdile. Shubhratri.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us none other than the Minister of Education, Sri Lanka, Dr. Sushil Premajayanta. And can we please welcome him with a round of applause?
Now I focus your attention to a different field. All 17 SDG goals, or the 16 related to SDG number 4, the quality education. When the United Nations was preparing in 2014 for the formulation of Sustainable Development Goals 2015-30, I had the opportunity to participate. I was sentimental commitment to seeing that these goals are pursued effectively. I think I notice we need the awareness, the knowledge to sustain all other sectors. So that is why the quality education is important. So without education, with illiterate society, we will not be able to achieve all these SDG goals. The inclusive education, where this part of the world we ignore quality education for specially needs kids. Thank you very much for inviting me and listening to me.
On that note, let's move ahead because it's now time to also focus on leveraging private finance for public good. And we have the august presence of none other than Mr. Satya Tripathi, Secretary General, Global Alliance for a Sustainable Planet, New York.
It's a very interesting time to be at, actually, as a citizen of this great country. But talking about climate change and leveraging private finance for public good, why do I focus on finance? Why not the other problems that plague our society and our country and the world as a whole? Because no matter how great the idea, no matter how brilliant your imagination, no matter how you think in terms of creating value for yourself and the society, it all boils down to one thing and one thing alone, unfortunately. It's money. You might have the greatest ideas, you can never take it to scale. You can never bring it to fruition without the resources. And that is the story of climate change.
What we're now about to do is actually take a moment to felicitate the sustainability champions of change. We'll first start up His Excellency Freddie Swain, Ambassador, Danish Embassy to India. Ambassador, Embassy of Finland, Kimmo Ladevirta. I'd now like to invite Marisa Gerards, Ambassador, Kingdom of Netherlands to India. Dr. Sebastian Domzalski, Republic of Poland to the Republic of India. The Minister of Finance, Royal Government of Bhutan, Leonpo Namge Shering. To Geetanjali Kirloskar, Chairperson and Managing Director, Kirloskar Systems Limited. Deepali Khanna, Vice President, Asia Regional Office, the Rockefeller Foundation, Thailand.